Hey, and it's Nick Raymond here with a Weekend Projects Hangout on Air, where we get a chance to talk to the makers and the editorial staff that help put these projects together. Today, we'll be talking about the Sing-Along Devocalizer with maker Jeff Goller. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
Great.
And thanks for joining us. And then Mike Sinisi, executive editor with Maker Media. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jeff, for joining us. Thanks, Nick, for letting me be part of this today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a chance today to talk to Jeff about his project, some of the ideas he had and how he built it, and Mike will give us a demonstration of the sing-along song Devocalizer in action. But I guess, Jeff, to get us started, kind of how did you get interested in art or in music and in like just making in general?
Well, I'm a musician by background, and I've been playing music for a number of years, been playing with groups, and one of the things that happens is that we get assigned, depending on what group you're in, especially as a bass player, you get assigned songs, and they say, here, we're going to be playing the song next week, go off and learn it. Okay. And there's limited resources depending on what kind of music you play. I played in oldies groups, and currently I'm playing in a bluegrass group. But particularly for bass guitar, it can be difficult to hear the particular part that you want to replicate. Now, you can get lucky and find a MIDI track available, and then you can pull the other instruments out if someone's done a MIDI track, but you're at the mercy of the MIDI creator, whoever wrote the MIDI track, whether or not it replicates the actual song you're trying to learn. So I was looking for an electronic solution to see if I could pull out mainly the vocal out. I figured that if I could pull the vocals out of the mixes of some of the songs I was trying to learn, that would help me learn the part. And I did some online research. I found such devices do exist, but the prices on them, they start around $100 and go up to $500, and people were using all different kinds of techniques to do this, and they're using all kinds of filters and really overcomplicated electronics in order to make this work. And I was looking for something that was a little bit easier, and I stumbled across this idea, actually.
Okay. And so yeah, go ahead. I mean, how did you come about? I mean, it sounds like you could use it a bunch of analog, or excuse me, a bunch of digital circuits, or some software that existed previously. But I mean, since you're looking for a cheaper solution, how do you come about relatively simple schematic? It seems like.
Well, actually, I was one night I had my laptop and I was listening to some music tracks, and I had a very poor quality set of earbuds.
Okay.
And earbuds were at the end of the road. I think we all have a set of earbuds like that are just at the end of the road. You wiggle them at the plug junction, and they give out. And this earbuds was at the absolute end of its life. But I noticed that when I wiggled it in one particular configuration, the vocals dropped out of the track. It was remarkable. It was exactly the effect I was looking for. And I remember I was half asleep. I remember waking up going, did I just dream that? And I started playing with it a little bit and wiggling the thing around, and I could replicate it. And so for about a week, I now had this holy grail set of earbuds that anyone else touch it. And I didn't know exactly what it was doing. For a while, I was worried that there was something wrong inside the plug on the end of the thing, actually on the jack. But after a while, I had the courage. I pulled the plug out and I tried it on my iPhone, played some music over it, and I could replicate the effect. So, you know, on a set of stereo earbuds, there's only 3 wires. This couldn't be hard to figure out what was going on.
Right.
Unless there was something mystical going on here, I figured I had the technology to figure this out. Even though I'm not an electronics person by background, I'm actually a physician. And I work in an emergency department down here in Charleston. And I figured I had enough electronics background to try and figure this thing out. So I took a set of, I went and bought a fresh set of earbuds, and I went to Radio Shack and I bought some little alligator clips, and I wired myself up a little test configuration. Actually, I have here, I've just wired up.
Cool, the first prototype, nice.
Yeah, just little alligator clips, and I just started doing jumper tests. And I started jumping this to that, without really any sense of what I was trying to accomplish, just to see if I could replicate the effect. And once I replicated the effect, then I really didn't understand exactly what was going on, and I had to go backwards and have to do some research to understand what was going on. And I found I was able to replicate the effect, and I found out that all I was really doing was lifting the ground, and each signal was using the opposing channel as its ground, as its common ground. And it was throwing the signals 180 degrees out of phase, although the electronics and physics people use the word phase differently. There was a little bit of debate about this, about whether this is the appropriate use of the word phase. Some people use phase meaning difference in time, but people use difference in So anyway,
Like your waveform or your sound wave kind of propagating and like the signal coming from like the electrical device like your iPod or MP3 player. That's kind of like the phase we're talking about, or
right. I'm talking about throwing the signal out at 180 degrees, but the
right.
physicists like to use out of phase, meaning that one signal is behind the other, and
Right.
that's not the sense that we're talking about here. So the signals are happening simultaneously, but they're being thrown out of phase, and what happens is anything that's common to both signals gets canceled out, and that becomes relevant because the way that most music these days is recorded, at least stereo music anyway, and you have to have it recorded in stereo for this effect to work, is that the vocals are usually routed simultaneously to each track. Certain instruments are traditionally routed each track. It's usually the kick drum, the bass drum, oftentimes the bass guitar, but almost always the vocals. So any instrument which appears on both tracks, both the right and the left, will be canceled out if you do this. And that's what happened. I started looking at the device, and we absolutely love Make Magazine in our house. I was talking with my son Nathan, he's 10, and we came up with the idea of submitting this to Make. When Make Magazine comes to our house, we all scramble to get it and see who can get it first. And we beat each other up that they have first dibs at the magazine. And we've been out. We've got. It goes back to your third issue. We came on board with the very third. That's how long.
Fantastic.
Make fans. So we got the idea that you guys might be interested in this, and I started thinking a little bit more about the idea, and I thought, what can I do for this idea to do a little bit more value added? And I started thinking, well, sometimes it's kind of cool, especially on very old recordings, when you can hear one instrument just out of the right channel, but you only hear it out of one earbud. And wouldn't it be cool if you could route the right signal to both earbuds or the left signal? Okay. So I decided to add the value, put another switch on this, so that not only could you do vocal canceling on it, but you could also do the right or left channel to both speakers to make it easier to listen to. Because it's really hard to listen, even though you can, on a standard recording like a Beatles song, you can take your headphones and block off one. You still only get one input, to one ear, and it would be nice if you could have it from, to both ears. And so we decided to add that value to it when we put the project together. And that's kind of the story how it happened.
And so you mentioned your son Nathan. Did he help in the project, and you guys worked together on this as a father-son team?
Right, Nathan. I brought Nathan in after I had the idea, after the serendipitous discovery, and after we had the idea, then Nathan helped me with the form factor, and we started. Nathan is very interested in those kinds of things, so he helped me. We went to Radio Shack together, and we went on a shopping expedition. We have a Radio Shack about 2 blocks from our house, and we we're always there. And so he helped me come up with the form factor, and he also came up with some ideas on testing. And as I was doing different varieties of it, he was kind of my beta tester, for the project.
That's great.
He's very, very excited. He's very bright, and was very interested in this, and that was his role in it.
Very cool.
Mike, do you want to go ahead? I think we've got a live demo we can try to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show the actual finished product.
Yeah, this right here is the sing-along song Devocalizer. We've got input and output jack on one end. We've got 2 dip switches in the middle. One of them is a 3-way switch, and then we've got the 2-way switch here at the top. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a quick demo here. I've got a little speaker that I'll pump some music through, and I've got a track set up on my iPhone. So first thing I'll do is iPhone into the input, then from the output into the speaker. And the song that I'm using here is a track called, let's see, what is this called exactly? When Sleep Fades, by a writer named Danny Jeffries, who goes by Hot Water Music, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've seen here. This is a Creative Commons licensed track, so thank you, Danny Jeffries, for putting your music out with the Creative Commons license and allowing us to use it as our demo track for this, this awesome device. Okay, so here is the, let me make sure that this,
okay.
Let me turn this up.
Got it.
And you'll hear the vocals will kick in a moment. And as they kick in, now you can hear that the music cuts out a little bit, but the vocals cut out completely. So I'll switch back. No vocals.
Awesome. Cool. And that's just by throwing the switch. There's no microcontroller. There's no giving the schematic too.
Yeah, it's just throwing this one switch here, and it cuts it out. This is one of the ones that works really well. Jeff, you had noted in the write-up for this that some tracks have a more dramatic effect, and some of them have less dramatic effect, and then some of them have a entirely out of this world effect. And this is one of the ones that has a really solid lose the vocals response. I love it.
Well, it depends on how the tracks are mixed. And I personally, I'm a fan of older music. I love 60s music, Beatles, Monkees, things like that. And in those days, those guys were really into stereo isolation. And so not only can you drop the vocals out, but I hear every time I use this device, I hear something different on music that I've known and listened to thousands of times. For 30 years, I've heard some of these songs, and I hear something new on it. Sometimes you hear backing vocals. Sometimes you hear a brass part that you never knew existed.
Yeah.
And when you drop this stuff out, to me, anyway, it sounds like you're standing in the studio in a room with the vocals turned off, and you get to hear a totally different perspective with the music. And it's just adventure. And some nights I'll take songs out from that I haven't tested on it. The other night I used the Yes album and listened to some of the different, got to hear some of the individual guitar parts. And depending on how it's mixed, anything that's mixed into both channels doesn't cancel out. And so the things that you're looking for, things that have a better prominence in one channel, tend to do best. But you can hear backing vocals. I've heard some Indigo Girls tracks, and you can hear some beautiful harmonies on it that I never even knew existed before. And it's an exploration. I no longer really use it as much for learning music. It's just an exploration to listen to my CD collection.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
And there's also a kind of I was reading along, and there's a slight effect that happens maybe with a few tracks, and it's sort of like a robotic kind of vocalized note. Any idea what's going on there, or that's just what happens when you get the channels kind of mixing the signals? You get this kind of really kind of, I don't know, electronic sort of robotic.
Yeah, underwater robot.
Yeah.
Bleep. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I can explain it. It's kind of like it's music soup. Too, where the signals I think it's a constructive interference is what I think is going on. I haven't really had time to work with it or figure out exactly what's going on. But it adds a very robotic sound to it. It's only maybe about 5 to 7% of tracks that I've worked with have I discovered that, and it's interesting. I'm not sure that's practical,
right.
But it's certainly interesting to listen to.
And then Jeff, can we get you? I've got a schematic over here. I'll do a screen share. Maybe have you show. I mean, there's really only a couple components to this whole project, and it's super easy to go pick them up at Radio Shack. The parts. Let's see. Here's the schematic. Maybe kind of explain what's in it. Mike, you mentioned there's just 2 switches, really.
Yeah.
Can you guys see that okay?
Can see it great.
Yeah, I don't have it, but that's okay. I can kind of know what it looks like. I don't see it on my screen now, but really there's not really a whole lot to it at all. All we're really doing is lifting the ground out, and there's an extra jumper cable between the right and the left side. It's basically a bunch of wires soldered together. There's no real solid state components to it. There's a couple switches and a couple wires soldered together, and we're just rewiring it and shorting some things out. It's pretty amazing what it does, given how simple it is.
Yeah. So here's an inside shot of the box, the project enclosure, and yeah, I mean, I was amazed to see the video on the Weekend Projects page. And watch the build, and I was expecting really complex circuits, maybe some kind of filters, or the previous hangout last week we were taking music and making lights illuminate, and we had all 3 different filters using op amps and transistors, and this is just like simple hardware and some wiring, some sneaky wiring. So it's awesome, and it's super quick for a weekend project. I mean,
yeah.
You really can go find the parts, put this together, throw it together, and really spend the rest of your weekend experimenting with the tracks. You'll build it and it'll be super quick, and then the real fun part, like you've mentioned, is actually experimenting with your music collection to figure out the interesting sounds you can get. So
I really love hearing. I love hearing instrumentation that I didn't know was present on a song that I've listened to 1,000 times.
Right.
That freaks me out. I love hearing a particular piece. Like, oh my God, there was a flute on that. I've never heard that before. And then you go back and listen to the full mix, and there it is, but you've never heard it before. And this gives you a different perspective in the studio. You know, it makes you feel like you're sitting there and kind of sitting at the sound booth a little bit. So.
And also, I think you mentioned in one of the articles, the previous technology that you're looking at was, one, it was expensive, but two, it had to have a digital signal going into whatever black box they were using. And this really, as long as you have some sort of 1/8 inch headphone jack, you can start experimenting. You don't have to make or convert MP3s. If you have an old cassette player with old tapes on it, you could just use that right away. I mean, it really opens up the possibilities and kind of breaks down the barriers of getting a digital signal first.
Right. The existing technology that I've seen that was out there, you have to take your song file and convert it either to WAV or MP3 format. And then these devices that I've seen all have onboard memory. So then you have to have your PC and you have to transfer the song over to it. And then you can get the effect, and it works fine. And I've worked with those devices, but it's just too much hassle for me because I like doing it on the fly, and I never know what song I'm going to be listening to or what I'm going to want to explore. And the other devices, you have to kind of know what you're going to want to play before you do it, and you have to take the time to transfer it over. And you're limited by memory too. So this is just on the fly. Anything that you can plug a set of earbuds into the 1/8 inch jack, you can listen to and work with this, as long as it's stereo. And that turns out to be a limitation for me because a lot of the early bluegrass music in my genre that I play was done with a single mic setup. So unfortunately, that won't work. It doesn't help me with this device. Unfortunately, it doesn't help me as much as I would like.
It's one of the things that Jeff and I were talking about, Nick, before we started the live hangout, was the idea that you could also take this, and one of my favorite things is with Shazam, the iPhone app, is to take the setup so that it doesn't, you identify the track, and then with the track identified, you sometimes get this option to have a lyric play thing that pops up, and it's one of the craziest things in the world because somehow it knows the lyrics of the song at the point in the song where the song is playing. It's live lyrics.
Oh, okay.
But with this, you can add the Devocalizer into it, and suddenly you've got yourself mobile karaoke setup. So you you can be singing along, you can kill the vocals, and you can belt it out to the top at the top of your lungs with no one else interfering with you. You know, get rid of the Michael Jackson.
Get in your car, right? No one can hear you. You're kind of like enclosed.
Exactly.
You're in studio.
Yeah. Or set it up at a party, and then everyone can hear you. That's super fun too. But yeah, that's one of the things that I think is a really cool added function to this whole setup.
Yeah, if you pick the right songs in advance, you could definitely use as a karaoke machine. Yeah. I was reluctant to advertise that when I presented to you guys first. I really didn't want to present it as a karaoke machine because it won't do that with all songs. It's really dependent on how the track is mixed, and I kind of use it more as a music exploration device. Is how I like to advertise it. But yeah, if you get the right set of songs, you've got yourself a karaoke machine. And it's true that some songs the volume level will drop out, like the example that Mike was using that particular song. But not all songs drop heavy volume out.
It's true.
Depending on how they're mixed, some songs maintain their volume. That particular track you have there must have more of the instruments all up the center, which is why they're all canceling out.
I bet that's the case. Yeah. Because it's true. Some of the ones we picked this song in particular so we could share it with everyone on the Hangout because of its license. But yeah, a lot of the tracks that we did experiment with, they worked really just perfectly well.
So Jeff, has this led to, I don't know, another project down the road that you're considering or you would like to build, or this worked out the way you wanted it to and you've just been happy ever since you put it together?
Well, this project really worked out when I built a pair of defective earbuds and had submitted it to Make Magazine. If you think about that, it's kind of funny. But this project has really worked out really well for me. My next idea, I have a couple enhancement ideas for this.
Okay.
And I'm not really prepared to present it yet.
No.
It's giving me a couple of ideas.
I understand.
to move beyond the defective earbud idea. But now that we're at this stage, and I've been speaking with some of my friends and colleagues, we've had a couple ideas for a couple enhancements. in particular, maybe to do exactly the opposite, which is drop everything else out and just retain the vocals.
Ooh. Well, make sure you keep me in the loop on that one, because I want to hear about that project as it comes together.
Definitely. Well, it's about time to wrap it up, but I wanted to thank our guests, Jeff Goler and Mike Sinisi from Make. Thank you guys so much for joining the Hangout. And remember, if you are interested in the project and you're watching along, go ahead to the Make Weekend Projects page. You can find the videos, the instructions, how to build this project, and the write-up that Jeff did. So, guys, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And,
yeah, you're welcome. And Jeff, have good luck with your show tonight. He's
oh, right, yeah. Jeff, good luck.
Yeah, we're going to be playing tonight, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Okay,
thanks, Jeff.
Okay, bye.